Welcome to the latest edition of Between the Hash Marks with James Koklek. I'm Sean McCabe, and we have another loaded show for you this week. We gave you our AFC predictions last week, and we have the NFC predictions for you today. And boy, is it a crap shoot. We're also going to give you our picks straight up and by the spread for this week's biggest college football matchups. Remember to like our Facebook page at BT Hashmarks. Subscribe to our YouTube page, Between the Hashmarks channel. Follow us on iTunes at Between the Hashmarks, and email the show, bthashmarks@gmail.com, to get your question read on the show. But first, here is my opening rant. This past weekend, we had an interesting spectacle in the sports world. Seemingly, the most anticipated fight ever. The fight that got even the most casual of sports fan, never mind boxing fan, interested. Hell, even my girlfriend was really interested, and she can't stand sports. And despite how we all knew this was a money grab by all parties, we bought into it, and we did so willingly. And it was actually a pretty entertaining fight. But part of me, even though I enjoyed myself, thinks that everything seemed to work out a little too perfectly for everybody involved on all sides. The fight made over $700 million in pay-per-view. Floyd is now 50-0. Conor actually won 4 out of the 10 rounds, 3 right away. Floyd said he wouldn't let it go the distance, and it didn't. Conor wasn't knocked down once. Everybody was talking about it. Conor looked better against Floyd than other professional boxers, including potential Hall of Famers, including Manny Pacquiao. MMA appears to be the tougher sport than boxing. Now, I don't want to go all crazy cuckoo conspiracy guy on your ass, because I rewatched it and it didn't look fixed to me. There was a couple of spots where a little questionable, but the fight did not look fixed. It was a typical Floyd fight. It's how he fights every single fight. But I can't stop thinking that it was a little too good to be true for all parties involved. But I'm glad, at the very least, it was entertaining, and I feel like I got my money's worth for what I thought could have been a very disappointing fight.
Well, I tend to agree and disagree with you here. I thought the fight was great. I thought that it would go 9 rounds, not 10. I was off by 1 round in my prediction.
I give you a lot of credit for that, because I thought it was going to go the full distance, to be honest.
I did not. I thought Conor McGregor would tire himself out as the fight would go on. He's never fought more than 25 minutes, and that showed in the last 3 minutes of that fight.
Absolutely.
Even going back to maybe the 22-minute mark, Floyd, he fought his normal way of fighting, but also was more of an aggressor this time, where you don't normally see Floyd walking down an opponent, where usually he's hopping around, jumping around, kind of like a bunny, and avoiding all kinds of hits and punches and whatnot thrown at him from his opponents, and he's known as this defensive whiz. And he didn't really play defense all that often in this fight. He seemed to want Conor to tire himself out, so that way he could take advantage of Conor when he was tired, which he did in the 10th round. But that being said, something that I do want to bring up, and I wish I had recorded due to the fact that I can't find this anywhere on the internet, but Conor is seen saying on the ropes, for people who think Conor should have kept fighting and the ref shouldn't have called it, he was seen on the ropes right after the fight was called saying, "I was done." You can see it, lip reading, clear as day. He said it twice. "I was done," with an exhausted smile on his face, probably to his corner.
Yeah.
So he knew the fight was over. He knew that if it wasn't called then, he would have been physically knocked out in the next couple of seconds, and that fight was over. So I had a great time watching it. It's a great way for Floyd to go out, considering his last 2 fights haven't been all that great.
Not at all.
And I have no complaints from my side. None.
Yeah, no, I don't understand why people are complaining about the ref calling the fight. He didn't put his hands up for like a minute straight.
Maybe longer.
Maybe even longer. And in the boxing world, if you're not defending yourself, it's the referee's obligation. It's his job to
protect.
Exactly. To protect the fighter and to call the fight, whether he wants to or not. That's his job. That's what he's getting paid to do, to protect the fighters.
the way I heard it was described as if they let the fight keep going, it was like aggravated assault on Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
He was physically defenseless. He could not move. He was tired. He may say after the fight how he wanted it to keep going. He's just being a tough guy. He's being Conor McGregor and his normal self. He's got to say those things.
Yeah.
But all in all, he knew at that very moment the fight was done and he couldn't go anymore. But heck, he put up one hell of a boxing match against the greatest of all time.
He did better than Pacquiao against Mayweather.
Somebody brought that to my attention the other day, and I agree. But we have to consider the fact that Floyd was walking him down more in this fight, where in Pacquiao he was trying to avoid, and he knew that he had to be the defensive whiz.
Okay.
So it's two kind of different fights.
But I'm just talking about punches landed, though. If you just look at punches landed...
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I think Conor had more of an opportunity to land punches because Floyd wasn't protecting himself as much.
Yeah.
He was walking him down, wanting Conor to tire himself out, where in the Pacquiao fight, he seemed to be more of that defensive whiz in the Floyd Mayweather mentality versus Pacquiao.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he backed away more, and there were less opportunities for Pacquiao to hit because Floyd was jumping around, and people were surprised that Floyd didn't jump around in this fight due to how much bigger and how much stronger Conor is than Floyd.
All right, well, tell us what you think about the fight. You can email us at bt_marks@gmail.com. One thing before I end off, I've never heard Conor have such an Irish accent after that fight. Like, it seems like he just got more Irish, like, knocked into him.
Conor may have gotten more Irish, but you know what?
What's that?
We're going to talk about the fact that FSU really does not have a shot at beating Alabama this Saturday. We'll be right back on BTH.
Your number one source for sports.
You know who I can't stand? Kevin Durant.
He looks like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton had a kid.
Now, who can argue with that?
I hate Boston.
I'm the biggest Miami Heat hater you'll ever meet.
I just don't understand where you're getting your bogus information from.
What the hell are you even talking about?
Well, I'm sorry you're too freaking sensitive to handle the truth.
You think I'm crazy? I'm just getting warmed up.
You're now between the hash marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe.
Welcome back to BTH. We have the first week of college football. It is upon us, finally. And we are going to give you the rundown of the top 5 matchups this week, beginning with Michigan and Florida. James, what do you think?
Well, I'll give you who I think is going to win in 1 second. But let me just add that both teams, this is a must-win for both teams. We're going to talk about a game a little later that the loser of that game still has a chance at a national championship. But for these two teams right here, University of Florida still has to play LSU, Georgia, Florida State, and possibly Alabama. And University of Michigan still has to play Penn State, Wisconsin, as well as OSU, Ohio State University, on the road. The loser of this game, in reality, has no shot at making a national championship. I mean, of course they do, but the odds and the chances are so slim and low, it's unbelievable that this may be the most important game on the schedule for this Saturday coming up, first weekend of college football. Michigan lost a lot of starters. Yes, I think it was 11 to be exact, but they may be more talented than last year. It's going to take a little bit of time to gel. All teams really need time to gel, especially when you're adding so many new players to a team. And Florida's defense is usually wreak havoc on a lot of teams. Not such a good team to gel against, really. That being said, 17-14 Michigan.
Oh, so you got Michigan winning,
I do.
And you got Florida covering the 5.5 point spread.
I do.
Okay, very cool, very cool. Yeah, no, I agree. UF's defense is absolutely insane. Michigan has more talent and they have the better coach, but their talent, while it may be more than Florida's, all their players are super young. They don't have many returning starters that are juniors and seniors from last year. So I'm not sure if they're going to have that success week 1 that I see them having week 10 or even next year.
They're more of a team that's going to be on the rise as
Correct.
the season goes on and into next year.
Exactly. So both are kind of rebuilding this year, but I expect UF's defense to be ready before Michigan's offense. That being said, I still have Michigan winning this game 19-16 because they have the better coach and I think they have more talent.
So we both agree for the exact same reasons, which is weird.
Yeah.
Michigan has better talent. UF is probably the better team right now. We both think Michigan's going to win.
Yeah, it is because Harbaugh's going to pull something out of his ass.
Score.
I have 19-16 Michigan.
I have 17-14, which is
3 points. Yeah, so I also have Florida. I also have Florida covering the 5.5 point spread. Moving on, we have West Virginia and Virginia Tech. I think this game is going to be absolutely insane. I love West Virginia in this matchup. They are the dog in this matchup. They are a 4.5 point dog. Will Grier is the QB for West Virginia. I think this is a huge upgrade for an offense that is already very, very, very good. And Virginia Tech, to me, has too many questions at quarterback, and I can't trust that. West Virginia's defense is playing pretty well. Solid linebacker, good secondary, and they're going to have an extreme pass rush for a new quarterback. I like West Virginia 30-28.
Well, I got to disagree with you here. I think it's going to be a thriller. I do think that it's going to be not a super high scoring game, but I think there will be a lot of offensive yards. I think the fact that West Virginia gets Will Grier, who played at Florida until he was suspended. Virginia Tech is now starting a redshirt freshman, Josh Jackson. Yeah, he's a dual threat quarterback. That really works in college football. But West Virginia has the experience at quarterback, which I think will be key. I think it'll be key for the whole game. But Virginia Tech has a stud defense. They have a lot of NFL prospects in their secondary. And I think that the matchup between Virginia Tech's secondary and Will Grier and the offense of West Virginia will be one to watch this weekend. Will Grier is going to have his hands full. And that being said, I think it's a close game. I think defense is ultimately going to win this game. But Virginia Tech's going to come out on top 23-20.
Okay. So, but you still have West Virginia covering that 4.5 point spread, or some. Now it's actually at 4.
Yes.
But I got it in at 4.5.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Cool. Next game we have Tennessee and Georgia Tech. Monday night thriller. Who do you got?
Now this is a weird one. I wonder how Tennessee is going to come out, because last year we all know that Tennessee came out and everybody thought they were going to be this good team again. They have a lot of defensive starters back. Tennessee does. They got their whole middle linebacker quarterback. I think their offense will do just fine. They still have a lot of talent on that team. This is not a matchup that I'm too excited about. I think Tennessee is going to blow them away. I think Tennessee wins this game 30-10 on Monday night. I don't think it's much of a game at all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can't say I disagree really at all. I think Butch Jones is on the hot seat this year, and they can't afford to come out slow. If Georgia Tech ends up pulling this out, Butch Jones better start looking for a new job, because that's not acceptable if you're a Tennessee fan. Tennessee has all the returning linebackers. They have 8 of their top 9 tacklers coming back. Mm-hmm. This defense will be better. Georgia Tech has a new quarterback, and their top running back, Mills, is out. They got rid of him because he violated the team rules. That being said, I have Tennessee winning 35-20, covering the 3-point spread. Moving on, we have UCLA and TexasAM. Now they played week 1 last year, and not a bad matchup at all. For me, Josh Rosen is the real deal. He will be a top 5 NFL draft pick this upcoming season, and this game will be one of the many reasons why. UCLA is always overperforming early on. If you look at last year, we saw them beat Texas A&M, and everybody's like, oh my god, UCLA is really amazing. And then as the season goes on, they have to start playing other teams.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Josh Rosen got hurt last year too.
He did. Exactly. So just those things right there, those are the main reasons why I like UCLA winning this matchup. I think also Jim Moore is a better coach than Kevin Sumlin. That's just my opinion. Texas A&M's defense has always been a little suspect. Therefore, I have UCLA winning 27-19, UCLA covering the 3.5 point spread.
Well, I have a little bit of a closer game here. I agree with you that Josh Rosen is a stud. I think he will be a factor for UCLA this season. He is going to be the key factor for them to see how far they will go, what bowl game they will end up in. They are not going to make the college football playoff. Let's be, quite real here. They're not going to overcome USC, I don't think.
No way.
But that being said, there are still goals to reach and bowl games to play in that do matter, the Rose Bowl and other bowl games that are out there. I think that Texas A&M, they lost their best defensive player, but as expected, I think they'll look good. I somewhat agree Kevin Sumlin is an overrated coach. He hasn't really done much since Johnny Manziel disappeared.
Since he's joined the SEC, really, like...
It's been tough, and when he may go 9-4 or 10-3, but in reality, those 3 or 4 losses are against the better teams that he can't beat. So it's not really a positive thing to look at. I think that even though Texas A&M is going to look good, Josh Rosen's going to be a star. Josh Rosen is going to win this game single-handedly for UCLA. I think that it'll be close. UCLA pulls it out 35-31.
Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah, you have it a lot closer than I have it. All right. Moving on to the game of the week. At least everybody in the freaking world thinks this is the game of the week.
Well, I just said it wasn't the game of the week. Right? Michigan, Florida is.
I'll stop listening to the show.
I'll give you my reasonings right now. Now, I said that we'd talk about this matchup in a little while. Here it is. Bama, number 1, FSU, number 3. I think it's going to be the national championship game rematch. I think it'll be the same exact outcome. Bama's going to beat FSU week 1. Bama's going to beat FSU in the last week of the season in the championship game. But I think Michigan UF is the game of the week due to the fact that there's more on the line. I think that FSU and Bama, the loser of this game, is still going to the national championship.
They definitely still have the potential if either one loses this game. They both have the schedule.
Yes, where Michigan and UF don't. The loser of that game is eliminated from contention, and I think that on the line is going to make it a more exciting game than Bama FSU. Although, me personally, if I have to pick one or the other to watch, I'm watching Bama FSU.
Absolutely, you'd have to be crazy.
You know?
Thankfully, there are 2 different times.
Yes, but you know what? This is the first matchup for Bama FSU since 2007. Guess who won that time?
Let me guess. Bama?
Nope. FSU did.
Wow.
FSU did. But Bama is 2-1-1 against FSU all time, so their only loss in regulation. But funny stat here, Nick Saban is 10-0 against his former assistant coaches, which means he's going for 11-0.
Yep.
But how do I think this game's going to play out? Very, very, very simple. Defense will dictate both sides of the ball. Florida State's defense, Alabama's defense. If one of their offenses can get rolling, that is the team who's going to win. Ultimately, I think Bama's defense is going to shut Florida State down. I think that Florida State's defense is going to hold up for a little while. I think eventually Bama's going to get rolling. Jalen Hurts is going to get rolling. Tide's just going to get rolling. And you know what they say? Roll Tide!
So what's the score you got?
31-17 Bama.
Wow. You think they're just going to roll them right over?
Yes, I think that by the time halftime comes around, Nick Saban's going to have a completely different game plan, as he always does. He's a genius. He's the Bill Belichick of the college football. And I think that big game experience, this is a big game, and Nick Saban's team comes out on top more often than not.
But you think it's going to be a blowout? 2 touchdowns, that's a blowout.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay. That's where you're wrong here. Now, I know what I said earlier, that I think FSU is going to win this game, and I would not be surprised if FSU wins this game.
I can't believe you've changed your mind.
No, I had to, because I've just looked at the numbers. I've watched Alabama games forever, and they always open up the year against a difficult opponent, and they always win that game.
Usually by a large margin. Not all the time, but usually by a large margin. But this is when you have Nick Saban prepare for a long time for one particular opponent, he is more successful than not. That's including playoff games or bowl games or week 1 games or even the game where he has a bye week to prepare. He is unbelievable when you give him extra time to prepare for a team. And I read a report today from Bleacher Report, actually, that Bo Scarborough basically had a broken leg. He had a fracture in his leg. I read that too, funnily.
And
is that even a word? Funnily?
Nah, who cares?
But yes, you're right. He had a broken leg last year in the national championship.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but he still had 2 touchdowns, right? And he ran like all over him.
Yes, and he's now what? 100% healthy?
Yeah, so that is the reason why I think Alabama is going to win this game. I think they're going to dictate the flow of this game. However, I'm not sleeping on FSU at all. Alabama is currently a 7-point favorite. I do not think they will win by more than 7 points. They might win by 7, but that doesn't matter. I think
you can't underestimate him. You just can't do it. It's too. I see where you're coming from. It's 1 versus 3, but I think of last year and how USC was supposed to be this dominant team. It was supposed to be this great game, 52-6.
But the thing is, USC was that dominant team at the end of the year.
The only difference was Sam Darnold, but that
pretty big difference if you ask me.
It's a huge difference, but was the defense a difference? Because Alabama still put up 52 points. Maybe it would be 52-30. But it's not going to be 52-48 against Alabama. Alabama's still going to win that game by at least 20 points. And they won by what? 48?
Well, I think when another team
whatever the math is.
When another team can control the way they want to play, and they're moving the ball down the field, and they're not going 3 and out like USC was basically every freaking drive.
I loved it. I loved every second of it.
When a team is doing that against Alabama and making Alabama's defense stay on the field, that is when Alabama gets into trouble. I have the final score being 37-31. Alabama wins, but FSU will cover the spread.
I hope it's a good game like that. I can't see Florida State putting up 31 points on Alabama week 1. I think that they have the best college defensive back in the nation.
He can only cover one guy.
Yeah, but how many players does FSU have on the outside who are playmakers where he's like the Revis when Revis was in his prime. So he could shut down one side of the field, Fitzpatrick. Now you're working with 5 defensive backs for 3 different guys. You could put help over the top on 2 of them. I mean,
do you or do you not think this is FSU's best team ever? Better than the Jameis team, or at least closer.
Under Jimbo Fisher, that's word to be said. I don't want to put it out there because of this reason solely, and I hope you appreciate that. Last year, Alabama was notified as the best team Nick Saban has ever had at Alabama, and they came up short of a national championship. Even though I think if we both ask each other right now who was the better team last year, Clemson or Alabama, if they had to play again, I would pick Alabama.
Yeah, no, I would too. I mean, if you look at the course of the season, Alabama played better over the course of the entire season than Clemson had. They should have lost to NC State.
Yes. So it's just,
So to answer my question, you do think FSU is...
Yes, this is their best team so far, but I don't want to put it out there and say that they're this amazing team yet because it's not on. We haven't seen anything yet.
But you think they are really, really good, if not
paper,
the best team, the second best team Jimbo Fisher has had.
Yes, on paper, for sure.
And you think Alabama is miles ahead of them? You think Alabama's 2 touchdowns ahead of them?
I don't think that during this game, yes.
And you think they're both going to be in the national championship game?
But here's the thing.
Delusions of an Alabama fan.
But I think Alabama and an FSU national championship game will be a much closer game. I think that Jimbo Fisher's a good coach, yes, but you just said it. Nick Saban has had all freaking summer to prepare for this game. He is more prepared than he's going to be prepared for any game this season except for the national championship game if they get there. I think that this game, Florida State will not be as prepared. Not that they won't be prepared, they won't be as prepared. And I think that will hurt them in the long run. I think as the season goes on and they gel as a team and they are now one team instead of just being on paper, but they've played games and they know each other's jobs and know what each other is supposed to do and they play together as a unit. If I had to predict a national championship game score right now, I think I did predict it already in week 1, but I don't remember it exactly. I'll have to find it on paper, but I can tell you right now, it is an under a 1-score game in that game. So I think it shrinks from a 14-point lead to maybe like a 5-point game in the national championship. I think I had it 35-31 to be completely honest. So I do think that FSU will get there. Just don't think that I think the first game of the season to play Alabama is asking a lot.
All right, coming up, we have our NFC predictions. It is literally a crapshoot. Anybody can win this thing.
Crapshoot. Is this Las Vegas? Are we gambling now? We should talk about gambling. But coming up next, we're going to do NFC predictions on BTH.
You're listening to Between the Hash Marks with James Koklak and Sean McCabe, brought to you by an unknown sponsor we don't have yet. Now back to the show.
And we're back here on BTH. We've had a pretty jam-packed show with some information about college football, a little bit of predictions there about the Superfight that ended up being a Superfight after all. Now we're going to go into the hot topic of our NFC predictions. To complete our NFL predictions, you will have a Super Bowl prediction at the end of this show. Pretty exciting stuff. Let's start with the NFC North. What are your predictions?
All right, big surprise here. NFC North, number 1 seed at 11-5, Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers. Do I need to say more? Do I really need to say more? I mean, if you look at their team, they have tons of weapons, and it looks like they have a running game this year, despite the lackluster free agency. Yet again, defense can be opportunistic, but they are going to control the game with Rodgers in most situations. I have them at 11-5. I have the Minnesota Vikings also at 11-5. They will be a playoff team. However, the reason why the Packers are ahead of the Vikings is because the Packers will go 4-2 in the division. Vikings will only go 3-3. Minnesota defense is going to be even better than last year. They, in my opinion, they are the most talented team in the NFC, except for Sam Bradford. But Sam Bradford may not be amazing, but he did not make mistakes last year, and he looked very sharp with accuracy. And this continues in this preseason. They have a loaded backfield this season, and if their O-line stays healthy, they could make a deep run in the playoffs this season. Detroit, they will be the 3rd seed. I have them going 9-7 in this year. Not a bad record, but not good enough to make the playoffs this season. Stafford, huge contract. He struggled last year at the end. He got a little banged up, but still led his team to the playoffs. I'm concerned with their ability to convert inside the red zone. It was a big problem for them last year. Chicago, 4th seed. I have them finishing 4-12. And honestly, after the draft, it looked like they were a complete train wreck. The front office probably still is, but they do have a pretty good front 7 on the defensive side of the ball, and their offensive line looks really good, which is going to be good for them developing Trubisky. However, it doesn't really matter. They have too many holes. That's why they're 4-7 or 4-12. Sorry. And James?
Well, we agree on the Packers. We agree on the Bears. I have the Packers, number 1 seed, 14-2. Enough said. Aaron Rodgers has healthy weapons. What better offense is out there right now? I know their defense isn't stacked. It's not, super talented. But Martellus Bennett, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, the list goes on of stars that they have on that team that can play around Aaron Rodgers. This is Aaron Rodgers' 2nd MVP season. I'm calling it right now. Number 2, Lions at 7-9. You have this division looking like it's going to be pretty tough. 7-9 for the Lions, 7-9 for the Vikings. I think these two teams are kind of similar. I think that they both have good defenses. I think that the Vikings may have the best defense in the league, but I think they're a young team, a team that has to gel, and I think they're still a couple years away from being a playoff team, a playoff contender. I think they are missing Teddy Bridgewater and his mobility big time. The Bears, bottom dwellers, once again, 3-13. This is a rebuilding year for them, but they are on the right direction with the players that they have drafted. Mitch Trubisky has looked good this preseason, so more to come from them. But this season is going to be a wash for the Bears, and I think they know it, along as the Jets and a couple of other teams out there. Moving on to the NFC South. I have the Saints regaining the championship for the NFC South. Wow. 12-4. I think that Drew Brees has never had a true run game. He now has Adrian Peterson in his backfield. Adrian Peterson may not be AD anymore all day, but you know what? Adrian Peterson is still a top back in this league, and I think that he will be able to get it done because you can't stack the box because of Drew Brees. But if you stack the box to stop Adrian Peterson, then Drew Brees can throw the ball all day long. I think it's a lose-lose for every team going up against him. I think it'll be an offensive nightmare. I think the Saints will go 12-4. The Falcons will have 10-6. They will also make the playoffs. I think that They have too good of a team to not make the playoffs, but I think they play in the second toughest division in football, and I think that is going to be the downside of their season. The Bucs will go 9-7. I think they're uberly talented, but yet so young and inexperienced, and I think that this year will do them wonders. Look for the Bucs to be making the playoffs in 2018 season. Panthers are going to be bottom dwellers this year, but that's not to say that they're going to be a bad team. The Panthers, I have them going 8-8 as the last place team in the NFC South. I think this team is loaded with this division is loaded with quarterbacks. Each game is going to be a thriller in the NFC South when division goes against division, and the Saints will come out on top. What about you?
All right. Wow, we are completely flip-flopped. I have Carolina finishing number 1 in that division. I have them going 11-5, and they're going to be the number 2 seed in the NFC. 11-5. You can't expect Cam Newton to have his worst year of his career again. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the MVP he was the year before, but he's going to be somewhere in between. They bolstered up their offense, and Ron Rivera is just too good of a coach for another disappointing season. I have the Panthers at 11-5. I have the Atlanta Falcons as finishing second in the division. I have them at 9-7 and actually missing the playoffs. Matt Ryan had a career year last year under a great offensive coordinator. Shanahan is gone now. I do not expect Matt Ryan to have that career year again. I mean, we just saw Cam Newton had a career year 2 years ago, and then he had his worst season ever. I'm not saying Matt Ryan's going to have his worst season ever. I just don't think he's going to have a career year again. And Matt Ryan hasn't really given me any evidence that he will maintain that. The defense still needs a lot of work, especially in that division with, like you said, every quarterback in that division is really good. I have Tampa Bay finishing third, and that's not because I don't think Tampa Bay is not good. I think their offense is completely loaded. I have them finishing 8-8. But their offensive line had trouble blocking last year, and I just don't see, unless they show it to me, that their offensive line is going to block better. And I know they drafted O.J. Howard. That should help. But if they do not figure out how to run block for their running backs, whether it's Doug Martin or Jaquiz Rodgers or Charles Sims, whoever it is, Winston's going to be throwing the ball a lot more, and that's going to lead to more mistakes. The defense is full of playmakers, but that doesn't mean that they are an amazing defense. Amazing playmakers sometimes leads to undisciplined defense. So the defense did get a little better, but I still think they're quite undisciplined. New Orleans, I have them finishing fourth in division, going 5-11. I don't think this is going to be a good team this year. The defense looks just as bad as last year, and Drew Brees, in my opinion, is going to have to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns every game for them to have a shot. I mean, he will be really good this year. Brees and Peyton, that era feels over to me. And the Adrian Peterson signing, it feels a little more cheesy than productive. He's not even going to be the starter week 1. So unless they can control the momentum of their games, which I don't think they're going to do, they will lose a lot because their defense is always going to be on the field. Now,
It's a valid point. I mean, I can't argue that because time and time again, year after year for the last 5 years or so, their defense has not been productive.
their offense is always loaded.
But they've never had a running back like AP. He may not be the starter week 1. I think eventually he will be. I don't think they can keep the beast locked up for very long. I don't think he's signing with New Orleans.
All right. Moving on to the NFC West. Seattle, number 1. I have them as the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. I have them going 12-4. I think this team is amazing. Defense is amazing. Russell Wilson is a PT peer, as Dickie V would say. And expect Jimmy Graham to have a breakout year this year. Last year, he had a down year, but he was still like the 4th or 5th best tight end. He got 13 red zone targets. Expect him to keep having those red zone targets. He had like 8 touchdowns last year. Expect the Seahawks to be really good again. They just keep drafting these guys in like the 6th round, and they end up being studs every single year. It's ridiculous. Arizona, I have them taking a step back. I mean, not necessarily a step back from last year, but a step back in where we expect them to be. I have them at 9-7, missing the playoffs. Now, they will be fighting for a playoff spot all year, but fall just short. The defense lost some key players like Calais Campbell. Carson Palmer is 1 year older, but their division isn't that amazing, so that's why I have them going 9-7. St. Louis, I have them going 4-12, finishing 3rd in the division. Sorry, not St. Louis. I'm still lost in a couple years ago. Los Angeles. What am I thinking? Los Angeles.
It went right over me too.
Yeah.
Like it just sounded so natural
It
that
does.
I was going with St. Louis. So
Los Angeles Rams, everybody. Jared Goff looks better. He does. He looks better this preseason. But I remember in Blaine Gabbert's second year watching him, he looked amazing in the preseason, and that didn't mean anything at all. Todd Gurley, he should bounce back this year, but it means nothing if that offensive line doesn't get its act together. So basically, I mean, if they can't control the game with Goff or with Todd Gurley, their offensive line is not blocking at all. The defense is going to be on the field a lot. And this is a defense that took a step back last year when they were a top 10 defense the previous 5 years. So if they can't control some sort of momentum throughout the season, then they're going to be bad. 49ers, I have them going 3-13. Not that I hate what they're doing. I was very skeptical at first when they hired John Lynch as the GM, but things are actually kind of coming together. They hired Kyle Shanahan, who basically led the best offense last year with Atlanta, and they killed the draft in my opinion. I thought their draft was amazing, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be good this year. Expect them to be good down the road. What do you think?
well, I have the Seahawks winning that division too. I don't think that it's even going to be close.
Yeah.
I think that you can just put the Seahawks in the playoffs and skip the 16 games, and I think everybody would be okay with that. Although people probably want to watch the Seahawks play. 11-5 though for the Seahawks. I don't know how they do it. I don't, because Doug Baldwin is not an elite receiver in my mind, and he's their best receiver. They don't have superstars. Their defense, yes, is superstar after superstar after superstar. But offensively, they don't have that. I wouldn't even put Russell Wilson in the top 5, maybe not even top 7 or even top 10 quarterback conversation at all in the NFL. But somehow they get it done. Can't argue with that. Cardinals, I think going 8-8 this year. I think they're going to be an average team. I think their defense is average. I think their offense is average. I think everything about them is average. The only thing that is not average on that team is going to be David Johnson's fantasy points, and he will be going second overall in most drafts this year behind Le'Veon Bell. I have the Niners and the Rams both at 4-12, but I have the Niners having a better division record at the number 3 seed, and the Rams number 4 seed. I agree with you with the Niners. John Lynch didn't seem like a candidate to be a general manager, but he's done a good job. He brought in a good coach. And speaking of their draft, they took Reuben Foster at the end of the first round, where he was a top 5 pick going into the draft. They may have gotten potentially the best player in the draft this year in pick number 30, I think it was. Unbelievable. The Rams. I like what you said there, and one thing that I want to add to that, because I agree with everything you said, or two things, I don't think the Sammy Watkins trade is going to pan out unless their offensive line can step up, because like you said, Todd Gurley can't get going, Jared Goff can't get going, Sammy Watkins can't get going then. But the big storyline here is Aaron Donald has not shown up for training camp. Their defense already took a step back, and now they're missing their best defensive player by far. I think that's a huge loss, and even if he comes back for week 1, it'll take him 5 or 6 weeks to get into football shape, not just shape, but football shape, and there is a difference, and I know you know that, but other people may not. That's going to be a huge loss this season. Aaron Donald's going to have a down year because he did a holdout, and it's going to hinder the Rams, and I think they have the talent to go 9-7, and they're going to end up going 4-12 due to unfortunate circumstances. But that being said, I want to move on to the NFC East. Now, this is the division that is so up in the air for me. There are so many good teams in this division, so many good players in this division, and yet it's so clear-cut and dry to me. I have the Giants, who I think are the most talented team all around in football this year. I have the Giants going 11-5. They're going to be the number 3 seed this year in the NFC. But I truly think that they have the best talent overall in the entire NFL, offensively and defensively. I don't think there's a better secondary in the league than what the Giants are putting out on the field. They may have the best defensive player in all of football in Landon Collins. Their division is just so tough and gritty every year, no matter what the records are. Those games are always tough, just like Jets-Patriots. Doesn't matter the records of those teams going into that game. 9 out of 10 times it's a good game. Same thing with the Giants, Cowboys, Redskins, and Eagles. but I have the Giants going 11-5. I do think they have the best team overall on paper. Cowboys, I think, are going to go 10-6. I think that the Cowboys, even though they don't have a better team on paper than the Giants, I think that they would have a better record than the Giants if Zeke wasn't going to be suspended for the first 6 games. I think that kills them. They're going to end up going 10-6. I think they would have gone 12-4 with Zeke. I think that they're going to go 2-4 to start the season. They've got a tough schedule with Zeke out through basically week 8 because of their bye. So the 6 games goes through week 7. That's going to hurt the Cowboys in the long run, but they will make the playoffs. Little teaser there for you as the number 6 seed. Redskins 6-10. I think that Kirk Cousins, great quarterback. I think he does his job well. I think he's smart for the way he's playing out his contract situation. But they lost some talent around him. Deshaun Jackson is gone. Pierre Garçon is gone. You have new receivers who are unproven yet. Your only receiver now who is I wouldn't say a top-notch guy, but he's your number 1, is Terrell Pryor. And I would take him on any team, don't get me wrong. But he's more of a number 2 to me. And I don't think you have a number 1 wide receiver on the Redskins, and I think that is going to hurt Kirk Cousins this year. It'll hurt their offense, and we all know about their defense and how horrendous it is. The Eagles, I have them going 5-11. I think that they're going to lose a lot of close games. I think they're a better team than the Redskins, but that always doesn't show record-wise. I think the Eagles will lose a lot of 1- and 2-point games on the last play of the game in the fourth quarter. I think they're just going to come out on the wrong side of them, but these are all learning curves for Carson Wentz and the Philadelphia Eagles, who are on their way up and do have a very talented roster. I just don't think it is their year, and I think they will fall short in a lot of close games. What do you think?
Okay, wow, yeah. We are completely off here. Here is the number 1 surprise. I was telling you all about this for the past couple weeks. That one prominent NFC East team is going to miss the playoffs. Opening up.
Dun dun dun!
The number 1 seed in the NFC East, and they will have the 4 seed in the NFC, is the Philadelphia Eagles. They will be 10-6. They'll go 4-2 in the division. They're my dark horse team. Carson Wentz had a good, not great first year, but he had flashes of greatness with essentially 0 weapons. They got Alshon Jeffrey, they got LeGarrette Blount, they got Torrey Smith to go along with Zach Ertz and Darren Sproles. Hell yeah. Head coach Doug Peterson and their offensive coordinator are both former QBs and former QB coaches. They know just how to groom this guy perfectly. He looks the part, passes the eyeball test, and their defense looks stout and opportunistic as always. I have them going 10-6 and the 1st seed in the NFC East. 2nd seed in the NFC East is the Dallas Cowboys. They will also be 10-6. Yeah, Giants fans' heads are exploding right now because they don't even know how bad I'm about to rail on them. The Cowboys, 10-6. They go 3-3 in the division. That's why they are not winning the division. Losing Zeke really isn't that big of a deal, as much as it's made out to be. Just look at how many playoff games Adrian Peterson won without a good quarterback. Not many at all. So losing Zeke isn't that big of a deal. Their offensive line is still the best in the NFL, and Dak Prescott is going to expand his game this season. But they have really good backup running backs with this team. This team will not miss a beat without Zeke. Don't expect them to at all. 3rd seed, the Washington Redskins. Wholly dysfunctional. I don't love Cousins. I like him. He is a franchise quarterback. He deserves to get paid by them because there's really no other options. But I hate their front offense. Their defense is pretty inconsistent, just like the Saints in my opinion. They will have to rely on Cousins because their running game is also really suspect. I don't know if it's their offensive line or if it's their running back, but it just seems like every single year their starting running back going into the season is not their starting running back at the end of the season, and it's not because of injuries or whatever, it's just because they're just garbage.
Just a side note on that. I've heard that the Washington Redskins field is atrocious, and a lot of players get injured playing in Washington.
Maybe that's it. But I have the Redskins going 7-9 because I do believe in Cousins. I think a lot of the games that they're going to be in, they're going to be close. I have them going 7-9. and the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants. I'm sorry, Giants fans, but you're going 6-10 this year, finishing last. Giant L, exactly. Look, you had some really nice flashy signings this offseason, Brandon Marshall included. But it seems like every year, some team gets some flashy receiver and then they fall flat on their face. Their defense should be strong, but is it really going to be strong against the good quarterbacks? We'll have to see. The real problem that I have with the Giants this season, I think it's a very, very real problem, is their offensive line and their running back. And if both of those things are bad this year, then Eli will struggle. Eli will be forced to throw the ball more, and that does not help Eli. There is only so many 80-yard breakouts Odell can have in a season. There's won
a
couple.
reason why he's led the league in interceptions. Exactly. 4 out of the last 6 years?
It's insane, and that's why I don't like the Giants. Until they prove to me that their offensive line is fine and that their running game is going to be okay. If the offensive line is fine, the running game is going to be fine no matter who's back there. But I just don't see that. And if they have those things, they could end up being a playoff team. But if they don't have those things, they are going to be very, very bad. Going into the playoffs now, wild card weekend. I have the Vikings matching up against Philadelphia in Philadelphia. And I had the Vikings winning that game because, look, the Vikings defense is that good. They can go anywhere in the NFL and play really, really well. And Sam Bradford is going to be accurate enough to not make mistakes. And they still have a really good running game. That offensive line was good last year until it got injured. So I have the Vikings over the Eagles. The other matchup in the wild card weekend, Packers and Cowboys in Green Bay. I actually have the Cowboys beating the Packers early in the season, week 5 I believe it is. Not the case here. It's in Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, in the playoffs, in January, he's just a different person. And I know Dallas beat them last year in Green Bay, but that was in October, man. That's not the same thing as January.
No, it's not.
It's not the same thing as January.
It may be 20 degrees in October, and it'll be negative 14 degrees in January.
The wind chill, it'll make it feel like it's negative 45 out there. Aaron Rodgers can handle all of that. That's why I had the Packers beating the Cowboys. On to the next week. Packers and Panthers in Carolina. I have Carolina winning this game. This is because I think Carolina's defense is going to be able to make Aaron Rodgers very, very uncomfortable. And I think they can control the tempo of this game. I also have Minnesota going to Seattle. You thought I was going to say Minnesota beating Seattle. No, not happening. The Seahawks are going to win this game. Minnesota is going to be on their high horse. They're going to be full of confidence. But Seattle essentially is going to be the best team in the NFC this year. They are dominant at home. And if this is a night playoff game, which very well could be, there is no chance for Minnesota at all. The NFC Championship game, I have Carolina going to Seattle. And for the same reason I just gave you, even if this game isn't a night game, but I'm assuming this game is going to be a night game, it's impossible for any team to beat Seattle in Seattle during prime time. But that's not even coming to the grips that Seattle's defense, they might have the best defense this season. Russell Wilson, like I said before, is a PT peer. He always gets the job done. And I think their depth at running back is good. Eddie Lacy, Procise, Rawls. They are going to have a good team this year. Watch out for Seattle. I have Seattle in the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, and I have New England winning. I know it sounds super homeristic, even if that's a freaking word, of me picking New England, but I'm just looking at it on paper.
You still have New England after the big injury to Julian Edelman.
Oh my God, that's an irrelevant injury. You saw what happened to Gronk. Did it matter? Did it matter?
Yeah.
No.
Julian Edelman plays such a key part to that team.
Hello, Danny Amendola. He's gonna be the guy.
He can't stay healthy either.
He's gonna be the guy making those 6-yard catches.
He can't stay healthy either.
Not to mention the Cooks and Gronk, and they have like 5 starting running backs on their team.
I think that's gonna hinder them a little bit. Although I predicted the Patriots to go 16-0 this year, I'm not gonna back away from that with Edelman missing. I definitely think that it's gonna hurt the Patriots more than we think. But moving on to my predictions. I have the Giants playing the Cowboys in the 3-6 matchup. Now, I agree with you slightly that the Giants' offensive line needs help, but I think it's just one part. It's Eric Flowers. He is their issue, he is their only issue, and they need to bench him. I think anybody playing there would be better than Eric Flowers. And I think Paul Perkins is underrated. I think that he's going to have a good season. I think that people just kind of discount him because you haven't really heard of him yet. We haven't seen much of him yet, but I hear good things about Paul Perkins, and I want to see the proof in the pudding one way or another before I can swing. But that will definitely be key. I have the Giants beating the Cowboys. For the second time this season, I think they will split the regular season on away fields. Seahawks and Falcons. That'll be the 4-5 matchup for me. I have the Seahawks winning that game. I don't think the Falcons are good enough this year. Yes, they have an uberly talented offense, but their defense is not as talented. And the Seahawks are extremely talented, to say the least. The Seahawks may be the best team in the NFC, although I think the Saints have the easier schedule and in hand will have the better record. I have the Seahawks playing the Packers and the Saints playing the Giants in the conference, or the divisional games, I have the Giants beating the Saints. I think the Giants are too good. It still blows my mind. I'm a Jets fan. I don't like the Giants, but it still blows my mind that you could have them not making the playoffs, or how talented their roster is. Packers, Seahawks, this will be the game of the year. Not the Super Bowl, not the conference championship games. Seahawks, Packers, divisional round of football. Best game of the year. That game will be in Green Bay. Packers are going to take it. For the same reasons that any team's going to go to Green Bay in January. I just think of Tom Coughlin's red cheeks, and I know how cold it is and how miserable it is, and to be playing a contact football game. The Packers do it all year long. I think they will come out on top in that game. Giants-Packers. This will be a good game, but I think the Packers will take it to them. I don't think it'll be close. I think it'll start close. It'll be a good game till halftime. The Packers will come out and they will really put it to the Giants, and they will end this game 41-20. I think the Packers will win big time, and we will see a rematch. We both have rematches of the Super Bowl. You have Seahawks-Patriots. I've got Packers-Steelers. I think the Steelers are a phenomenal team too. The Packers will defeat the Steelers 31-25. Exact score from 2011.
Okay.
For the 2010 season, I should say. The Packers will be your Super Bowl champions. I just want to add that Aaron Rodgers is too good of a quarterback. He's never had this talented of an offensive group around him in full. I think he's due for at least one more MVP season before he starts to tail off a little bit. I think he's due for at least one more Super Bowl, that he's too good. And I think if there is a year that he's going to get both of those things done, it will be this year and this year only. And therefore, I'm going to stick with my pick. And I think the Green Bay Packers will be bringing home another Lombardi trophy.
Pretty funny that we both have Super Bowl rematches here. But I know we're kind of limited on time here, but I'm curious, what do you think? Why do you think the Falcons are going to be in the playoffs? Because I don't see them having a Super Bowl hangover, because I still have them going 9-7. But I just don't think that they are going. I think they have a tough schedule, and I just don't think they're going to get it done week in, week out.
I have them going 10-6, so only one more win than you do. But I have the NFC East. Or I should say, I have the NFC North as not as strong as a division as you do, where you have every team except for the Bears having a winning record in that division, where I have that for the NFC South. So I think that if I had if I'm looking at two teams head to head right now, Falcons and Vikings, who's got the better quarterback? Falcons do, by far. There's no question about it. Do the Vikings have the much better defense? Yes, they do. But I know defense wins championships. But neither of those teams are going to win a championship this year. Offense wins games. And I think that the offense of the Falcons will take them to the next level. Now, I don't think the Vikings are going to be bad. I think they're going to be 7-9. So, it's just a couple games here or there. I just think that the experience of the Falcons would put them ahead over the Vikings. I think the Vikings are a super young team. If Teddy Bridgewater can come back healthy and they keep this core together, look out NFC North, because the Vikings are on the rise.
No respect for Sam Bradford.
None. I think he is in the range of 25 to 30 in the quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, this is saying a lot, and it may be asinine and everything around it. But truth be told, I think I'd take Geno Smith over Sam Bradford.
Oh, get the hell out of here.
At this point.
No way. No way. Dude, Geno Smith isn't even close to the accuracy level of Sam Bradford, which is why Sam Bradford is relevant now, because he had that 71 completion percentage last year. He's throwing like 80% in the preseason. I know it's only preseason, but he's got like that Alex Smith quality to him of game managing and not making the mistakes.
Maybe that's why I don't like him.
Fair
because
enough.
I'm an exciting type of person, so I want to see excitement. I don't want to see these dinky 3-yard passes that he's throwing all over the field. And you're getting a first down, but it's taking you 3 plays because you're getting a 3-yard pass, a 4-yard pass, and a 3-yard pass. I'm sorry. I want to see a 10-yard pass, a 15-yard pass. Now, I know it's asinine, and I really honestly wouldn't take Geno Smith. It was just a phrase, a lack of a better of expression, but I'm just trying to say that I think Sam Bradford is hindering them. And maybe a quarterback who's more mobile, has a stronger arm, will throw the ball downfield more, would serve them justice, and then maybe they could be a 9-17 this year.
All right.
But if it means anything, I know it's last season, but I did have the Vikings as my surprise team making the playoffs last year as a 6th seed. So
that means nothing. This is this year, James.
I do understand that they do have that talented team. I think they're missing Teddy Bridgewater.
All right, well, tell us what you think. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and iTunes at Between the Hash Marks. You can email us your questions if you want them read on air. Next week, the NFL is finally here. Thank God.